Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. We had some legislation signed into law earlier this week by Gavin Newsom. To talk us through it, as this is no longer legislation, it is something that we're going to have to deal with as a law. We have brought in CRPA Volunteer President Chuck Michel. Chuck, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's break into this really quick, and the first one is probably the one that had more notoriety as it was going through the legislative process. Let's talk about Senate Bill 2. This was a huge bill affecting a lot of things. The one that was probably publicized the most were the requirements it would tack on to the CCW process, along with the sensitive places. So can you tell us what this really means as it's being signed into law and what we have to look forward to on our end?
Well, so this is a vindictive and retaliatory response to the Bruin decision that says you have to give people the license to carry a firearm in public for self-defense. California politicians don't like that. They've always been hostile to issuing CCWs. And so to try it, now that they have to issue those licenses, they want to try and make them as useless as possible. And so to do that, they're designating large swaths of the state as sensitive areas where your CCW won't be valid. It'll be useless. So you can't drive across town without crossing through some sensitive area and breaking the law, even if you have a CCW. And on top of that, they want to put all kinds of difficult qualifications and high fees in the way of getting a CCW so that less people will be able to get one. So it's a flanking maneuver to get around the Bruin decision by putting a bunch of red tape in the way and then making the CCW mostly useless throughout the state.
Is it a way of flanking the Supreme Court decision, or is it just kind of open defiance to it?
They would call it flanking, but yes, it's open defiance. They claim it's Bruin compliant. It's not. The Bruin court made it clear that you can't play this game. You can't just claim every place is sensitive and ban things there, because that's what the New York City defendants were claiming in Bruin. They wanted to make the island of Manhattan a sensitive place. You can't do that. A sensitive place is really more of a place where you have metal detectors and a security presence. That's a sensitive place. The rest of the places, just generally places that are public, that doesn't make them sensitive. So we've already filed a lawsuit challenging this. We were the first ones to file. We've got a good judge down in Orange County who ruled our way in the roster challenge, issued an injunction against the roster. And we put together a coalition of groups, including the Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners of California, Second Amendment Foundation. Reno May is our lead plaintiff. He's the influencer on social media. And so we've actually been in discussions with the state attorneys already, and we've worked out a briefing schedule, and a hearing date on our motion for preliminary injunction will be held on December 4th. So we're moving it right along as fast as we can.
And that was kind of I guess, first of all, yeah, a shout out and a thank you to both Reno May and Armed Scholar, I believe, who is also a plaintiff on the lawsuit. Both of them are active in CRPA chapters in their local community, and they're doing a great service to this movement just by doing that, let alone being a plaintiff on the lawsuit. But that was my next question. Last year, I think this was Senate Bill 916, didn't end up passing because you need a certain amount of votes when you put it under the guise of an emergency to go into effect right away. Was that not done this year?
Right. They didn't bother trying to make it an urgency bill where you need 2/3 of the legislature. They just made it a bill that'll take effect on January 1st, so it only needed a majority. And that's how he got the votes.
So, with the prospect of getting this to the judge quickly, there is an opportunity to have an injunction in place before the law would come into effect. Is that what you're overall expecting?
That's the plan. That is what we're trying to do. Now, on the qualifications, we'll be looking for people who get denied because of one of those qualifications. To really have legal standing, it's called, be able to challenge those qualifications, we need to have somebody who's denied based on one of those qualifications. So I expect we'll be seeing a lot of people who will get denied for some arbitrary, not a good reason. And then we'll bring another lawsuit on their behalf to knock out some of those qualifications, like character references, and so they're gonna scour your social media posts and see what kind of a person, or pretend like they're trying to see what kind of a person you are, but basically it's going to be political again based on what they find out about you. And so there's another lawsuit that's going to have to happen.
Well, I'm sure that there are a lot of people in the queue right now, so I guess this is a better time than ever, Jacob. If you can, we will put the contact information in the description below. If you're experiencing this, or you know anybody who's experiencing this, please reach out to us. We want to be as effective, obviously, on these lawsuits as possible, so we can start there. But let's switch lanes here really quick, Chuck. Another one that Gavin Newsom signed yesterday was Assembly Bill 28. I thought this one was kind of curious because we are looking at these lawsuits now under the perspective of Bruin, which told us you got to look at the text, history, and tradition. You have anti-Second Amendment organizations touting that this is the first, and California is the only state in the union to impose this sort of tax on its gun owners. How is this going to hold up, and why do we keep seeing this stuff get passed when it's clearly an affront to our constitutional rights?
They don't care. I mean, they don't care if it's unconstitutional. They come up with some flimsy line about why they think it's Bruin compliant, but they know it's not. But they don't care. It's no secret. It's an open secret in the halls of the Capitol that they're trying to overwhelm us. They want to just pass everything so that we have to sue over everything, because they're spending taxpayer money or Bloomberg Everytown Law money, and we're spending, donations from hundreds of thousands of people who send in what they can, and it's all appreciated. But they think that they can bankrupt us. But we're not going to stop. That's one of the reasons we put together this coalition with other groups, so that we can share the expenses on some of these things to be able to do more lawsuits. And there will be a challenge to that tax law too. That's a poll tax. It's basically a tax on a constitutional right. And so there's one city or one county in Illinois that tried it, and they did not win. Their tax was blocked. It's still in litigation. There's never been a post-Bruin federal court addressing it there, but this will be the first time that a federal court will be asked to call this tax what it is, which is a tax on a constitutional right, which is designed to price people out of the market. This is all, there were almost 24 bills signed by Newsom this session, and they're all designed to just make it harder to get a gun, more expensive to get a gun, make a gun less useful wherever you may have it. It's culture side. It's an attack on the gun culture, the freedom-loving gun culture, the folks who want to be able to choose to own a gun to defend themselves or their families and not be reliant on the government or police to protect them. They want to be able to protect their own families. So Newsom doesn't like that. He wants a big government nanny state, and the Second Amendment is in his way. So he's trying to take the Second Amendment out with some kind of a 28th Amendment, which would erase the Second Amendment. And he's trying to pass as many laws as he can, banning gun shows, gun ranges, gun stores, taxing gun manufacturers, banning gun advertising. All of this is part of his attempt to stigmatize and demonize and minimize gun ownership. And, his goal is within a generation, make guns, practically non-existent. Of course, he's going to have a hard time doing that when there's been more than 1 million guns sold in this country every month for the last, I think, over 4 years. So people, after COVID and the pandemic and all the social unrest they're seeing on TV, are voting with their wallets to buy a firearm to defend themselves.
Well, I guess hopefully we can translate that going into the 2024 elections. At the end of the day, you guys, it's the elected officials who are creating these laws. I couldn't agree more. If that is an unspoken truth up in Sacramento, they are doing this knowing that they are violating your constitutional rights. We all have the opportunity to fire these people come next year at the elections. So I guess, Chuck, looking forward, AB 28 as well as SB 2. We got a new lawsuit coming down on SB 2. Any final thoughts on this?
Well, the lawsuit's already been filed on SB 22. We have an injunction that will be filed this week, a request for an injunction, and then a hearing on December 4th. AB 28, we are putting together an alliance with the industry and some of the manufacturers who are the ones who are going to be assessed this tax primarily to get that lawsuit ready. That doesn't take that takes effect a little later, so it's not quite as big of a rush as the SB2 lawsuit was. But we'll be looking at these other laws that he passed too. I mean, again, it's all just designed to make gun owners' lives miserable, make it as hard as they can make it to choose to own a gun for sport or self-defense or recreational shooting or hunting or whatever. Newsom doesn't like it, and he can use this as his platform for his shadow campaign to run for president. He can't come out and run openly right now while Biden is still there. But that's what this is all about. He's building national name recognition. He's going to campaign across the country on a gun control platform to frankly distract folks from all his failed policies on homelessness and crime and immigration and taxes and all the other things that are failing in this state. He's got to do a little sleight of hand to make people look in a different direction.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and yeah, he's using our tax money to run for campaign in this way. We pay these legislators. They spend time talking about this stuff in Sacramento, and then they enforce more taxes on us. And then it's just a touting point while he's running. So, Chuck, I appreciate the time. I'm sure we'll see you again soon. We got a lot of movement in this community right now. I really appreciate you coming on.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for helping me get the word out.
Absolutely. And you guys are helping us get the word out as well. The algorithms are working for us. Please, if you haven't heard me ask before, I'll ask one more time. Please leave a like, share, or comment on these videos. It really helps get this information out to as many people as possible. We're really looking to educate as many as we can going into the 2024 elections, and it's always a help. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.